Hello, I'm now going to record Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis Lamed Ches Amud Aleph. But before I begin, I'd like to review the Shakla V'Tarya of yesterday's Gemara because I feel that it wasn't quite clear enough. When you heat a stove using straw or stubble, there are no coals. It burns up completely. When you use olive pulp or you use wood, it creates coals. Even if coals are created, there's a solution to clean your oven, your stove, either by raking the coals out, then it's clean, or by covering the coals with a layer of ash, with cold ash, and that also accomplishes the same purpose, that the coals are no longer considered volatile. So for the sake of clarity, I'm going to call a clean stove a clean one that has no coals or no problem, and not clean will mean that it has coals in it. We have a dispute between Hananya versus the Rabbanan. Hananya holds that you're allowed to keep food on Friday afternoon on a stove that's full of coals, because as long as it's been cooked a third or a half, I'm not afraid that you may stir the coals Friday night. The Rabbanan are strict, and they say that you're not allowed to keep food on a stove Friday afternoon, which is called shihiyah, if the stove has coals in it. So Hananya is lenient and the Chachamim are machmir. If it's perfectly cooked, the Chachamim could be lenient. Today we're going to learn even if it's perfectly cooked, the Chachamim might even be strict even if it's perfectly cooked, but if the more you cook it, the better it becomes, the Chachamim might even be strict in such a case as well. So it's not clear whether our Mishnah is going according to Hananya's lenient opinion or according to the Rabbanan's stricter opinion. Route A is our Mishnah goes according to Hananya's lenient opinion, which means you're allowed to leave food on Friday afternoon. You're allowed to do shia, even if your stove is full of coals, because we're not afraid you might stir them. How about putting food back on Shabbos on a stove? Then everyone agrees that it has to be a clean stove, because otherwise either A, it looks like cooking when you put it on a stove with coals, or since the food that you're putting back may have cooled off, I'm afraid that you may stir the coals. So even according to Hananya, who's lenient that you can keep food on a stove Friday afternoon that has coals in it, but he would agree that you can't put food back on a stove unless it's a clean stove. According to the Rabbanan, you can either put back or you may even not keep. You can't do chazara nor shia if the stove has coals in it, because I'm concerned you may come to stir the coals. So there are two ways to understand the Mishnah. It's either Hananya's lenient opinion, shehi is mutter, chazara is aser unless your stove is clean, and Beis Shammai holds even when chazara is mutter when your stove is clean, it's only mutter for hot water, not for cooked food. And Beis Hillel says if your stove is clean, it's mutter to put back whether it's hot water or food. If we're going to be strict, then our Mishnah requires a clean stove both for Shia and for Chazara. So it's not clear what our Mishnah was saying. The Gemara brought a statement of Rav, a mysterious statement, that what's going to be allowed is only on top, but not inside. So the Gemara was wondering, well, what did he mean? If our Mishnah is talking about a clean stove, if our Mishnah was talking about a stove full of coals for Shia, according to Hananya, it makes sense. Shia is mutter, according to Hananya, even though your stove is full of coals, but not only on top, but not inside. Inside, if you put your pot surrounded by coals, that's called hatmana, and that would be aser. But if our Mishnah holds like the Rabbanan, that Shia is aser unless your stove is clean, well, if it's clean, what's the difference between on top or inside? If it's clean, it's clean. There's no problem with Shia. So the more explained, Rav Chalba is talking about not Shia but Chazara. And chazara, even if it's perfectly clean, but you're only allowed to do chazara on top of the stove, but not inside it, because inside it would still look like bishul. Now, again, in order to get the next piece, our Mishnah had two courses. The first course was a lenient course, she is mutter, but for chazara you have to have a clean stove. And the other was a stricter view that both for Shia and for chazara you must have a clean stove. The Gemara is now going to bring a brisa of the opinion of Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. Reb Meir is machmir over the top. Reb Yehuda is moderate. And if our Mishnah is going to be machmir, our Mishnah can line up with Reb Yehuda. But if our Mishnah is going to be lenient, according to Hananya, our Mishnah is not going to work with anybody. Let's understand. The Brisa talks about two stoves side by side with a common wall in the middle. A is perfectly clean and B is full of coals. Reb Meir says that on top of A, according to Beis Hillel, you're allowed to put up hot water. You're allowed to do Shia of hot water on A. On B, forget about. But on top of A, the clean one, you're allowed to put on hot water. But to put back, you can't. So Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel both hold Chazor is Osir. And as far as Shia, Beis Hillel allows on the clean one only hot water. So that's very strict. Reb Yehuda is more moderate. He says that on A, you're allowed to do Shia, according to Beis Shammai, hot water, but not a tafshil. Beis Hillel says on A, which is clean, you're allowed to put hot water or a tafshil. And Chazorah, Beis Shammai does not allow Chazorah, and Beis Hillel does allow Chazorah. So, if our Mishnah is the stricter view, which holds like the Rabbanan, then it lines up well with Rabbi Yehuda. Our Mishnah requires A, meaning a clean stove even for Shia. Beis Shammai will only allow hot water, and Beis Hillel will allow even food. And Chazorah, Beis Shammai allows nothing, and Beis Hillel allows Chazorah, both hot water and food, because it's a clean stove. And that's fine. So our Mishnah works very well according to Beis Hillel in Rabbi Yehuda. But if our Mishnah is going to be lenient, and our Mishnah is going to hold that even on stove B, full of coals, you're allowed to do Shia, so that doesn't line up, because nobody in this Brisa allowed Shia on stove B. The only issue was, what about stove A? So the Gemara says, you're right. But nevertheless, our Mishnah could be the lenient view. No, if the Mishnah is lenient view and allows even on stove A, how can it line up with this Brisa that nobody allowed anything on stove? Our Mishnah would allow you, our Mishnah is lenient and would allow you to do Shia even on stove B, even on a stove full of coals. But this Brisa says no. This Brisa says that the only issues are to leave on A, but not on B, not if it's full of coals. So Gemara says, well, our Mishnah could kind of go like Rabbi Yehuda. It would kind of go like Rabbi Yehuda, that the dispute between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is Beis Shammai allows only hot water, and Beis Hillel allows hot water and cooked food. And it also lines up with the Rabbi Yehuda that Beis Shammai does not allow Chazorah, Beis Hillel does allow Chazorah. So in that way, our Mishnah and Rabbi Yehuda agree. But in a major way, our Mishnah is not going to agree with Rabbi Yehuda. Our Mishnah will allow, if we hold the lenient view of Hananya, of doing Shia even on a stove full of coals, and Rabbi Yehuda allows Shia, according to Beis Shammai or Beis Hillel, only on A, only on a clean stove. Finally, the Gemara wanted to know, what about Shia on the outside of the stove? Does that also require Grifa and Ktima? Or even if you hold like the Rabbanan, that you need a clean stove for Shia, but that's by putting something on top. But on the side, maybe, it wouldn't matter. So first thing, we're trying to prove it, because remember we had stove A side by side with stove B, and you're allowed to keep stuff on top of stove A, said Beis Hillel, Alibad Rabbi Yehuda. So even though it's side by side, so you see side by side is okay, even though on B, which is beside it, is full of coals. Was it's not a proof, because when B is beside A, not only is B beside A, but when you're putting the pot on top of A, it's above and beside B. And since it's both above and beside B, it's far enough away that I'm not afraid you might stir the coals. But if you're going to put a pot of food just on the outside of a stove, which means it's at the same level with just the wall of the stove behind it, maybe there you'd need grifa and ktima. Finally, the Gemara says, there's a brisa that says that whether you put it on the side of a stove or on top of the stove, if you covered it with ash, which is good, but then it flamed up again, you're allowed to do smicha, which is on the side, or mekaimen, which is on top, and you're allowed to do chazorah. Basically what this brisa was saying, Reb Chia was saying, was that once you did ktima, it doesn't matter if it flames up again. But what do you see? But you do require ktima, even for putting something on the side. The Gemara said, wait a minute, but it also talked about taking off the fire. And why did it talk about taking off the fire? Taking off the fire is never a problem. The answer is it meant taking off in order to put back, right? You took off and you need to put back. So it mentioned taking off even though it wasn't really relevant. So maybe that's why the Bryce also talked about saimech, which means putting on the outside, because it was going to talk about putting on top. So since it talked about putting on top, it also talked about putting on the side. The Gemara says that doesn't make sense. Because if you're telling me you talked about taking off and putting back, because in order to put back, you have to take off. So it talked about taking off as well. But you didn't have to talk about putting beside if you're going to be talking about putting on top. Because putting beside has nothing to do with putting on top. So if you mention putting beside, it sounds like putting beside also needs a clean stove. The Gemara, so what's the bottom line? The Gemara brings a brisa that says that if you have coals, you're allowed to do smicha. For smicha, you don't have to have a clean stove. But in order to put stuff on top, you have to have a clean stove, because we hold like the Rabbanan, says this brisa. And if the coals are dying, then it's okay. Or if you put a light layer of flax on the coals, that's also okay. So in any case, we still have these two views, which according to according to Hananya, she is mutter. Only for chazorah you have to have a clean stove, and according to the Rabbanan, you have to have a clean stove not only for chazorah but also for shia. Amar Rav Yitzchak, bottom of Lamed Zayin. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Nachmani, Amar Rav Ishaya, Kotma v'huvara. If you covered it with ash and then it flamed up again, Mashin aleh chamish huchmu kol tzorchan v'tavshel shabishel kol tzorchay. In other words, he holds that even that if it flamed up again, you lost the benefit of katma. He holds differently. Before, we had Rav Safra b'shem Rav Chia that katma v'nis labsa is considered as if it's still clean. But he holds it's considered all flamed up, and since it's all flamed up, so then she is aser. So the only thing you're allowed to keep on top is perfectly heated water and perfectly cooked food. Because we hold like the Rabbanan, even though you did katma, but it flamed up again, so you lost the benefit of katma, so you can only put on perfectly boiled and perfectly heated food. But shmam yinam mitztafik v'yafalei mutter. Wait a minute, here comes another angle, which means if it's perfectly heated or cooked, it's okay, even if additional cooking will still improve it yet better. Because there are three possibilities, and let me make this clear so that the next Amud Gemara goes very smoothly. If you all like Hananya, we're very lenient that she is altogether mutter. If you all, that's A. B is according to the Rabbanan, that she is aser, unless it's fully cooked. But if it's fully cooked, then it's okay. And then you have C, which you all like the Rabbanan, that even if it's fully cooked, it's still aser, if the additional cooking will still help and improve it somehow. And that would be Chumra C. So either everything is mutter, no, it's aser, because we all like the Rabbanan, unless it's fully cooked, or it's aser unless it's fully cooked, and it's called mitztamek v'raloi. The more it cooks, it'll be bad. Now here it seems that as long as it's fully cooked, it's okay, even though if it continues, it'll still have some improvement. Was the shani hacha de katma. Now here it's different that you did do ktima. If you did ktima, I can be lenient even though it's mitztamek v'yafaloi. Yochi Maila Memra. So what's the Chiddush? Since you did Ktima, the answer is no. Huvar Itzter Chalei. The Chiddush is it flamed up again. Mal Detaima, I would think, given the Huvar of Hadra Lo Milsa Kamaisa, since it flamed up, it's as if you never did Ktima. And if you never did Ktima, then Mitztamek V'Yafalai should still be Aser. Kamash Malan. Kamash Malan, that's the split between B and C. If you never did Ktima, then we would hold C, that it's Aser to put food on Erev Shabbos unless it's perfectly cooked and it's Mitztamek V'Ralai. But if you did Ktima, then I can hold position B, that it's mutter to put, if you had Ktima and then it flamed up again, I could hold position B. It's mutter to put food on if it's completely cooked, even if it's Mitztamek V'Yafalai. Amar Rabbi Bar Bachanan Rabbi Yochanan, Kitma V'Huvara, again you covered it with ash but it flamed up again. Mashin aleh chametz shuchma kol tzarchan v'tavshol shabishal kol tzarchay. Afilu gecholim shal roisim. Again, if you did ketima but it flamed up again, so you lost the benefit of the ketima, and therefore you can only put up a B, only if it's fully cooked and fully boiled, even if the coals are roisim wood. We'll talk about that in a second. So shmami no mitztamek v'yafalei muter. So that means that it means that if it's fully cooked, it's okay, even though as it continues to cook, it'll still improve somewhat. No, shani hacha de katma. Here it's not a stove full of coals. You did cover it with ash first. So yochim ailememer. So if you cover it with ash first, what's the chiddush that it's mutter? Huvar itzter chalei. The chiddush is it flamed up again. So if it flamed up again, on one hand, on the other hand. On one hand, since it flamed up, you're only allowed to put on perfectly cooked food. But on the other hand, since you did cover it, I'll allow you, even though it's mitztamek v'yafaloi. Hainohach, didn't we already make that compromise? That if you didn't do ktima, then it has to be fully cooked and mitztamek v'raloi. But if you did ktima and it flamed up, it's enough if it's fully cooked, even though it's mitztamek v'yafaloi. Gecholim shal roisam etzrichalei. The chiddush was, even if it's roisam wood keeps its fire inside for a long, long time. Nevertheless, that's our compromise. And again, let me repeat the three shittas, A, B, and C. According to Chananya, A, she is mutter down the line. B says that we all like the Rabbanan, that on a stove full of coals, Shia is aser. But if it's fully cooked, it would be mutter. Opinion C is, even if it's fully cooked, it's still aser if it's mitztamek v'yafaloi. But if you did ktima and it flamed up again, then I'll allow it even if it's mitztamek v'yafaloi. Now, Amar Rav Sheshes, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rav Sheshes said the name Rabbi Yochanan, Kira shesikur begefes veitzim, a stove that has coals in it, Mashin olel chamin shalehuchma kol tzarchan v'tavshil shalabishal kol tzarchay. Whoa! You're allowed to put on hot water that's not fully heated, or food that's not fully cooked, on a stove full of coals. Opinion of Chananya. Okar, but if you took food off on Shabbos, loyach, so you can't put it back on, now you need a clean stove. Because to put back, even Chananya will agree that putting back is michzik imavashal, or it may have cooled off, so you'll stoke the fire again. So even though Chananya holds you don't need a blech, you don't need grief and ktima for Shia, but for Chazorah you do. Ksover, he holds masnis and lachzir. Tanan, our Mishnah's requirements are only when you put the food back. Avalisha is mashin, afal bishanegar ve'nekatum. But for Shia, we hold ala Chananya that you can leave food on Erev Shabbos, even if it's not fully cooked, without any restrictions. Amar Rava, so Rava says, Yishano Tarvayu Taneni, both of these halachas, that Shia is mutter, but for Chazorah you have to have grief and ktima, a clean stove, both of them are Mishnayos. Lashhois Tanan, the leniency of leaving hot food Erev Shabbos on a stove full of coals, we learned in a Mishnah before, a noisten as a pas b'taychataner chashecha, you're not allowed to put bread into an oven Friday afternoon, or veloy charor al gabi gecholim, nor a cake on top of coals, ella kedei sheyikarmu panel, only if it crusts. Now, karmu panel shari, the moment the bread or the cake crusted, it's good enough, ala chananya, and then you can leave it there. So you see, she is mutter, even though the tanur is very hot and has coals in it. So now lahachmir, the other side, chazara is aser unless you have a clean stove, is nami tanina. We learned Beis Hillel, Leimer, and Beis Hillel said in our Mishnah, av machzirin, you're allowed to put food back, but adkan like a shara Beis Hillel only allowed ela begrufa ktuma, only if you have a clean stove. I'm using the word clean, meaning you raked out the coals or you covered the coals with a layer of cold ash. Al b'sheina grufa ktuma lo, but if it isn't a clean stove, you're not allowed to do chazara. And for Rav Sheshes nami diuka the masdisen kamashmal, and Rav Sheshes wanted to teach us that what he said b'shem Rabbi Yochanan actually are mishnayos mufuroshes. On the other hand, Amar Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda Rabbi Yochanan, he says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, the kirish is sikua begefes ve'etzim, which means a stove that has coals in it. Mashin aleh tavshel shabishel kol tzarchai v'chamen sheuchmu kol tzarchan afilu metztamik v'yafalei. So you're allowed to keep only perfectly cooked food, which is opinion B, not opinion A. You can only keep food that's perfectly cooked, but even if additional cooking will improve it, which is opinion B. Amar le'ahumar de Rabbanan l'Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. So one of the Rabbanan said to Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, Rav Shmuel d'amri tarvayu mitztamik v'yafalei aser. Rav and Shmuel, the Amoraim, held of opinion C, that we hold like the Rabbanan, and it's only aser to leave food only if it's perfectly cooked, and only if any additional cooking will harm it, but not if it'll still improve it. Amar lei, so Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda said, Atu les ano yoda, don't I know that? Adamar of Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, mitztamik v'yafalei aser. Because Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda quoted Shmuel that as long as it improves, it's still aser, opinion C. Ki amin alach l'Rabbi Yochanan kamina. But I'm telling you, according to Rabbi Yochanan, he holds of opinion B, that as long as it's fully cooked, it's good enough, even though it'll still improve. Amalei Rav Ukva Mimesha l'Rav Ashi. So Rav Ukva Mimesha said to Rav Ashi, who lived in Bavel, Atun de Mekarvisu l'Rav Shmuel, you live near Rav Shmuel, Avidu k'Rav Shmuel, and you must be machmir like the Rabbanan, according to Rav Shmuel's opinion, that to leave food on Erev Shabbos, it has to be perfectly cooked and mitztamek v'raloi. Anan we, navid k'Rabbi Yochanan, we can hold like Rabbi Yochanan, who's more lenient, and would allow opinion B, as long as it's fully cooked, even if it's mitztamek v'yafaloi is good enough. Amalei Abai Rav Yosef, Abai asked his Rebbe an open-ended question. Ma'u lishos, what's the din with Shia? Can you or can you not allow food on Friday? Amalei said, Ha Rav Yehuda mashi levachel. Rav Yehuda was matir Shia like Hananya. Amalei bar minei Rav Yehuda, the kivin the mesukanu afilu b'Shabbos nami shori lemevadlei. Rav Yehuda was a chaylish yesh by sakana. For him, you can cook on Shabbos. But what about regular people? Leave a lachmai. How do we hold? Amalei said, Besura mashu. In Surah, they allowed Shia, because Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak mori du'uv dahavi. Rav Nachman Yitzchak is a very religious man. U'mashi leva achal, he does Shia ala Chananya. So he allows Shia as long as it's cooked a third or a half. And we're not afraid of Shemi Yechata. Amar Rav Ashi, Kamina Kamei Rav Huna. I was in front of Rav Huna, V'shohi lei, and he did Shia, Kasa daharsana, which is made of some fish, and fish oil, and fried in oil with flour. And v'achal and he ate. Now v'lo yadan, I'm not sure what he did here. Imishum de kasavar mitztamek v'yafalei muter. Either he held opinion B, that even though it improves the more it cooks, but still it's okay. Or imishum de kiven de izbe micha mitztamek v'raulei, or maybe because of the flour, it only gets worse the longer you cook it. So really he was machmer with opinion C. Amar of Nachman's opinion is mitztamek v'yafalei aser. We hold opinion C, that even if it's fully cooked, as long as it'll still improve, it's still aser. Mitztamek v'ralei muter. The only time it's muter to do Shia is if it's fully cooked and any additional cooking will harm it. Klala de milsa, and the rules of cooking are, kol disbei micha mitztamek v'ralei. Flour, cooking will make it worse. Levar mithavshel de lifta. The afagav disba micha mitztamek v'yafalei. Unless it's turnips with flour, then it'll get better. Even when it's fully cooked, the more it cooks, it'll still get better. Bani mili de isla bisra. It only gets better if it has meat. Avalesba bisra mitztamek v'ralei. But flour and turnips without meat gets worse. V'chias be bisra nami, and with meat also, it only gets worse. Lo yamoran de lo kavi la'archem. That's only if you have no guests. Aval kavi la'archem mitztamek v'ralei. If you have guests, the more it cooks, the worse it is, because the meat falls apart. and everything falls apart. For guests, you like nice pieces. What about livda, v'daisa, v'tamri? Is mitztamik v'ralahan. Food made of figs or cereal or dates always get worse. So B'kitzur, we're left with these three shitas. According to Chananya, according to everything is mutter, as long as it's cooked a third or a half, it's mutter dushia. According to the Rabbanan, opinion B is that it has to be fully cooked, but if it's fully cooked, even mitztamek v'yafala is okay. According to opinion C, aliba the Rabbanan, it's only mutter. If it's fully cooked, then it's mitztamek v'raloi. The Ramah, again, paskins, like Rashi and Tosfos, like Hananya Lekula. So you could leave food on the stove on Friday without a blech. The Mishnah Berurah says one should be more careful, aliba the Rabbanan, and not to do Shia unless you have a blech. And a blech makes it a grifa and ktima. As we discussed yesterday, Reb Moshe discusses whether our stoves bichlal have a din of coals, because we cannot, we can only add, when our knob turns the fire up, it's adding fuel. And nobody was ever geyser for adding fuel, they only were geyser for stirring the coals. But he doesn't want to be mekel, and he says, therefore, for sure you need a blech to do chazara, because for chazara, for sure you need a clean stove or a hecker of a blech. And for Shia, he says you should also use a blech. Another issue Rav Moshe has is what happens if you turn the flame on fully high. So it's impossible to make it higher. Would Shia be mutter without a blech? Then he says either loy plug, the Chamim didn't differentiate between partially hot and fully heated, or you're afraid maybe if it's fully turned up, you might want to turn it down. An electric hot plate that only has one temperature setting, he says you can use without a blech, because first of all, you can't adjust it, so there's no shemi yachata b'gecholim. And also, if you can't cook on it, so it's not mechzi kibishul, and there's nothing to stoke. The blech that we used is considered ktima. Reb Aaron Kotler felt that you should also have something on the dials, which would block you from being able to turn it up. Others have held that as long as you have a hecker on the flame source, there already is a good enough hecker, and you're not going to come to turn up any of the knobs. If you want to be machmer, Moshe says it's advisable to both have a blech and to cover the dials as well. They asked Reb Chia bar Abba, Shachach kedeira al gabi kira ubishla b'shabes mahu. If you forgot and you did shia, what's the din? Ishtik v'le'amar l'v'lamidi. So he didn't respond. L'mochar nafik v'darshlo. The next day he gave it Rasha. Hamvashel b'shabes b'shaygig yoichal b'mezid lo. If you cook, you put food on the stove on Shabbos, b'shaygig it's mutter to eat it, b'mezid you should not. And regarding shia, loishana, it doesn't make a difference. What's the meaning of my loishana? It doesn't make a difference. So we have a dispute. Rabbi Rav Yosef Damri Tarvayu Lahateira. They said she is mutter. See mavashal hu the kavid masa is therefore b'mezid lo yoichal. In mavashal you put a pot of food on the fire. Therefore, if you did a b'mezid, you're not allowed to eat it. Avahid lo kavid masa. Here you didn't do anything wrong. I mean, you did a derabanan. You let it stay on the fire. Me'erev Shabbos, but at most it's only a derabbanan, and you didn't do any act on Shabbos, so therefore b'meizid nami yochel, you can be lenient. On the other hand, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, he says au contraire, li'isura, for shehiyah, meizid and shaygig will be usr, will be double machmer. Mavashal hu deloy kasi larumi, therefore b'shaygig yochel. In Mavashal, if somebody b'shaygig put a pot on the fire, he's not going to become clever, do it b'meizid and claim it was a b'shaygig, because people don't want to cook on Shabbos. Avalhai, the asi larume, is b'shaygig nami lo yoichal. But to leave food on the fire, the Erev Shabbos, since people might not take it so seriously, so if you'll tell him that b'shaygig it's mutter, he'll always say it's b'shaygig. So therefore one might be more machmer on Shia than even on Bishul b'Shabbos. Bishul b'Shabbos you can be mekel b'shaygig, but on Shia we have to be machmer, bein b'shaygig, bein b'mezid, so people don't play games. Meisvei, the Gemara asks the kasha. Now you're going to see some contradictory things from what we said yesterday. We'll get to it. Let's just take out from this brisa what we need. Shachach kedeira al gabi kira ubishla b'Shabbos. If you did Shia, you forgot, B'shoigig yoichal and b'mezid lo yoichal. B'shoigig it's mutter, b'mezid it's aser. And b'chamin shel yuchma kol tzarchan and b'tavshel shel bishel kol tzarchay. If it hadn't completely cooked, it was partially cooked but not completely cooked, b'shoigig were mekel, b'mezid were machmer. Chamin shel yuchma kol tzarchan, b'tavshel shel bishel kol tzarchay is bein b'shoigig bein b'mezid yoichal. But if it was fully cooked, so you didn't do anything wrong, so Reb Divrei Reb Meir, so Reb Meir holds then it's okay. But if it wasn't fully cooked, b'shoigig were mekel and b'mezid were machmer. Reb Yehuda is more machmer. He says chamin shuchmu kol tzarchan mutarin. If it was fully boiled water is mutar. Neshem etztamik v'raloi. The more you boil the water, the more it evaporates. But tavshil shabishel kol tzarchay is also neshem etztamik v'yafaloi. V'kol shem etztamik v'yafaloi. He says if it's food which got better because you did your shia, even if it was fully cooked, but the more it cooks, the better it gets, and then it's aser. We're machmer fila b'shaygig. Going kruv upulim ubasar toruf, cabbage, beans, chopped meat. So there it's aser, and v'kolam its stomach v'rala is mutter. Only if it'll get worse, the longer it stays, then it'll be mutter. But ktani mia. But what did it say in this brisa? The tafshel shel bishel kol tzarchay. If you have unfinished food, what's the din? And you left it on. What did the Meir say? B'shay gets mutter, b'mezid is aser. One more time. B'shay gets mutter, b'mezid is aser. One more time. You left it on Erev Shabbos. What's the din? B'shay gets mutter, b'mezid is aser. Now we had a dispute before. Rabbi Rav Yosef said everything was mutter. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says bein b'shay bein b'mezid was aser. So Bishloim Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak loy kasha. Kan koydem gzeira, kan lachar gzeira. According to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, the Bryce is talking before they were geyser, shaygig go to mezid. So b'shaygig was mutter, b'mezid was aser. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said, and then they made a gzeira because of the cheaters, and they answered shaygig because of mezid. But according to Elul, the Rabbi of Rav Yosef, that they hold everything as mutter, lehateira, so then ikoidim gzeira kasha mezid. But if the Bryce says before the gzeira was made, but at least mezid was aser, lachar gzeira kasha nami shaygig, and after the gzeira, they answered even shaygig and mezid. So how could Rabbi Rav Yosef say both is mutter? Kasha, that's a good kasha. My gzeira, what gzeira? Damar of Yehuda bar Shmuel, Amar of Abba, Amar of Kana, Amar Rav, but chila yaimrim, mavashlo b'Shabbos b'shaygig yoichal. Originally, if you cooked on Shabbos b'shaygig, nu, let it go. B'mezid lo yoichal, b'mezid, you're not allowed to eat it. And then, and vuadin l'sheicheach, and the same din will be by shehiyah. But misharabu mashim b'mezid v'aimrim